They called her a gold digger, right in the middle of her own engagement party. The whispers slipped through the music, piercing the clinking of glasses, and the hollow laughter like poisoned needles. Olivia Bennet stood beneath a chandelier of crystal light, and in that moment, she knew not everyone was here to celebrate love. The jazz still played, but to Olivia, every sound drifted away, fading into distance. She glanced around the gowns, glittered diamonds gleamed, and eyes flickered toward her before sliding away as if touching something too low to mention. The sweetness of Napa wine mixed with the chill of disdain. She tried to smile, but her throat tightened, her heart constricted between forced laughter and hidden malice. At the center of the room, Ethan Parker, her fiancé, was speaking with a few relatives. He smiled warmly, his tone effortless, unaware that behind his back, venomous words seeped through the air like smoke. "She's a teacher, isn't she? Cute, but you know she's in it for the money." Of course. Parker men always attract that kind of woman. The words shattered inside her like broken glass. Olivia didn't turn around, but she felt the gazes scrape across her back, cold, measuring superior. Part of her wanted to flee, yet another part stood tall, proud, even in the ache. This room was built for those born to belong here. High ceilings, marble pillars, a live orchestra playing beneath golden light. But within that grandeur, Olivia felt like a single wrong note. Her dress was red, yet it couldn't outshine the blinding gold of arrogance. A woman's voice spoke beside her. "Margaret Parker, Ethan's mother." "Olivia, you look radiant tonight," she said with a sculpted smile. "That dress so simple. Did you choose it yourself?" "Yes," Olivia replied evenly. "I thought what mattered most was the evening itself, not the dress." "Oh," Margaret murmured, her gaze dipping to Olivia's neckline. "Yes, perhaps for those who value humility, that can be charming." The words were sweet as wine, yet bitter as they settled on the tongue. Olivia smiled faintly, though it felt like stepping down into cold stone. From behind came Chloe Parker, Ethan's younger sister, her voice light and innocent, sharp beneath the sweetness. "I heard you teach 3rd grade. That's adorable. Kids must be lovely, though. Probably noisy, right? I just wonder if you have the patience to be part of a family like this." Ethan turned, then his eyes gentle, as if he'd heard nothing. He took her hand. "You okay?" "They're just trying to make conversation." Olivia nodded, but behind her calm eyes a storm was gathering. That night, beneath all the glitter, her heart dimmed. Every word, every glance carved another fracture into her belief that love could rise above all boundaries. She could feel the weight of difference like an invisible glass wall dividing two worlds, one of wealth and reputation, the other of effort and dignity. When a waiter poured more wine, Olivia caught her reflection in the mirrored wall beside the table. Her face looked tired, yet beneath it flickered a spark small but steady. She had once believed love was enough. Now standing in this dazzling room, she began to understand that love might shine, but it couldn't always pierce the darkness of prejudice. Across the room, Margaret spoke to a cluster of guests, tilting her head as she mentioned Olivia's background. Chloe laughed. Someone whispered, "Poor thing, she must feel out of place." And they were right. Olivia did feel out of place, but what they didn't know was that she was quietly counting each heartbeat, each breath, waiting for the moment when these very people would fall silent. Outside, the night wind swept through the vineyard, lifting the curtains. Olivia looked up. The stars scattered like promises across the sky, and she whispered to herself, "They may look down on me tonight, but they will remember this night forever." 6 months before that night, Olivia Bennet was just an ordinary teacher, starting each morning with the school bell and ending each day under the soft light of a small lamp in her 3rd-floor apartment grading papers for her 3rd graders. She loved her job, loved the way the children's laughter filled the room when they finally understood a difficult math problem, loved the spark that lit up in their young eyes when they read a passage fluently for the first time. It was a simple kind of happiness, but one that endured. That morning, a light rain fell over San Francisco's silver mist, blanketing the streets. Olivia took shelter in a small cafe on Mission Street, where the scent of freshly baked pastries mingled with the deep aroma of espresso. She sat by the window, surrounded by stacks of tests and a red pen completely immersed in her small world. Until thud, an unexpected collision. Coffee spilled, spreading across the page. A man's voice came rushed, but warm. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry I didn't see you there." Olivia startled, jumping up as she looked down at the brown stains soaking into her papers. In front of her stood a tall man with broad shoulders, his shirt damp from the rain, his hair tousled, his face calm, but his eyes full of genuine alarm. "It's okay," she said, shaking her head, trying to smile, though her heart sank at the sight of the smeared ink. "No, please let me help," he insisted, his tone earnest. "I'll replace the coffee and those papers if I have to." Olivia laughed softly. "Do you realize I'll have to stay up all night to regrade 30 of these?" He frowned for a second, then smiled with easy warmth. "Then, let me buy you another coffee and keep you talking until you forget how tired you are." His name was Ethan Parker, a financial investment specialist, a man of numbers, charts, and speed. Olivia was a woman of handwriting and chalk dust. Two worlds that should never have crossed collided right there between coffee and the summer rain. They sat together. A fresh cappuccino arrived, and their conversation began as if they had known each other forever. Ethan talked about business trips around the world, the relentless pace of Wall Street, while Olivia spoke of her students' children who had never left their poor neighborhood but dreamed of the stars. She didn't realize how much time had passed, only that, for the first time, someone was truly listening. Not out of politeness, but out of genuine interest. Ethan didn't interrupt, didn't glance at his watch. Each time she spoke about her students, he smiled a kind of smile that made her feel seen. The afternoon drifted by like a gentle film. The last light of day streamed through the cafe window, brushing her face in honey gold. As Olivia packed up her papers, she said quietly, "I have to finish grading or the kids will start begging for their scores." "Let me help you carry these to your car," Ethan offered. "I owe you a drier coffee date." It was a simple line, yet it planted a strange flutter in her chest. In the days that followed, they texted. At first it was about her students, then about their long days, and soon it became a habit each night as she finished grading her phone would light up with a message. "Still awake, little teacher." Their love grew quietly without declarations or fanfare. Ethan began showing up outside her classroom after school, bringing her pastries from her favorite bakery, sometimes just to wave and smile. Once, when she was exhausted from teaching an extra class, he simply said, "I can't help with the work, but I can sit here and wait until you're done." Olivia never knew exactly when her heart began to change. Maybe it was when he wiped the coffee-stained table, or when he silently listened to her story about an orphaned student. But she knew one thing: Ethan made her world softer, warmer. When he proposed at that same cafe, Olivia cried. Not because of the diamond ring, but because of what he said. "You teach those kids to believe in dreams. Now it's my turn to believe in you." And she believed him, believed that love could cross every boundary. What she didn't know was that Ethan's world was wider, higher, and colder than she imagined. And those smiling faces in their engagement photos would soon turn their smiles into blades. That afternoon, San Francisco was drenched in golden sunlight. Olivia had just finished class, chalk still on her hands, when Ethan appeared at the school gate. He stood there in a gray suit, smiling softly, standing out among the line of parents waiting for their children. The kids squealed, waving. "Miss Olivia's boyfriend is here to pick her up." She laughed, awkward but happy. In her world, love was that simple a smile, after school, a surprise cup of coffee. But today, Ethan wasn't just there to pick her up. "Are you free tonight?" he asked, his voice carrying a hint of tension. "I want to talk about the engagement my family's planning it." The words were light as air, yet they lingered, making her heartbeat slow. That evening, in her small apartment lined with children's drawings, Olivia listened as Ethan explained the plan. His tone was calm even, but there was a flicker of unease in his eyes. "My parents are traditional. My mother especially wants the party to be held at home, just close family and friends from the business circle. Nothing too big, just a few dozen people." "At your home?" Olivia asked with a smile. "I have never been there." Ethan nodded slightly. "I know. It's in Napa Valley. I want to introduce you to them officially." In that moment, her heart bloomed and sank at the same time. Officially introduced meant accepted, didn't it? Yet something, in the way he spoke about the party, his mother, their traditions, sent a quiet chill down her spine. She glanced at her hands, smudged with ink and chalk. Across the table, Ethan's were perfect, neat, smooth, untouched by labor. Two worlds, two shades of skin, one weathered by the sun of the classroom, the other shaped by the gleam of boardrooms. In the week that followed, Olivia lived in two opposite states of mind. By day, she still taught, still sang "You Are My Sunshine" with her students. But at night, when she looked at the invitation embossed with gold, "The Parker family cordially invites you," her heart skipped unevenly. She wanted to look beautiful but not fake, to make an impression but not lose herself. She rummaged through her closet, tried on old dresses, then finally chose the red one she had bought with her New Year's bonus. Not glamorous, but just right. A red that made her feel strong. In front of the mirror, she whispered to herself, "They'll see I'm good enough for him." When the day came, Ethan drove for 2 hours to Napa Valley. The road curved through lush green vineyards, the air clear and soft. But the closer they got, the quieter Olivia became. At the final turn, the Parker estate appeared grand and old as a European castle, its ivy-covered walls rising beneath a red-tiled roof. Luxury cars lined the gate, and uniformed staff opened doors for guests. Olivia swallowed hard. "Ethan," she murmured, "I thought you said it was small." He held her hand, smiling faintly but avoiding her eyes. "For my mother, small means about 80 people." She forced a laugh, but her chest tightened. As they stepped through the gate, the air changed, expensive perfume laughter from women in glittering gowns, the soft clink of crystal glasses. She heard a whisper nearby. "Is that the teacher? She's cute, I guess." Yeah, but Ethan could have anyone in this circle. Each word wrapped around her heart like a tightening thread, not sharp enough to wound, but heavy enough to steal her breath. Margaret Parker descended the staircase with the grace of someone raised on stages. She extended her hand, her smile flawless. "Olivia, welcome to the Parker home. How lovely to finally meet the woman who's captured my son's heart." Her tone was light, but her gaze cut like a thin blade. Olivia replied softly, "Thank you for having me. Your home is beautiful." "Thank you," Margaret said, her lips still curved. "It's been in our family for over a century. I hope you feel comfortable here." The last words were gentle, but carried the weight of a challenge. As Olivia walked through the hall, the crystal chandeliers cast shimmering light on her skin, beautiful but cold. She felt like a guest who had stepped into a painting where every detail had been perfectly arranged, except one, her place within it. Ethan leaned close, taking her hand. "Don't worry," he whispered. "They'll love you." She smiled. But deep down, she knew not all love comes from kindness, and that night, her love was about to be tested by fire. The grand hall was filled with the scent of lilies and the gentle sound of a cello. Light from the crystal chandelier danced across the polished floor, scattering glimmers onto elegant gowns. Olivia followed Ethan, his hand warm but loose in hers, like a fragile thread trying to hold two worlds together. Every gaze followed them. It wasn't mere curiosity, but the refined scrutiny wrapped in flawless manners that only the upper class had mastered. "This is Olivia Bennett," Ethan introduced proudly. "My fiancée." A few polite smiles, a few shallow nods, and among them, Olivia saw Chloe Parker, the blonde sister, her soft pink lips curling into a thin blade-like smile. An elementary school teacher. Right, Chloe asked, her eyes scanning Olivia from head to toe. How admirable. It can't be easy, but I suppose it's nice not having to worry about profits or stocks, isn't it? Her voice rang clear but cold as glass. A few people chuckled quietly, small enough to feign innocence, loud enough for Olivia to hear. She smiled, gentle yet firm. "Yes, that's right. I only worry about the children and how to teach them that their worth doesn't come from money." The room froze for a brief moment. Chloe raised an eyebrow, about to retort, but Margaret Parker spoke first. "My dear," she said softly, turning toward Olivia with the polished warmth of a woman who had hosted galas her entire life. "Don't mind her. You know how direct Chloe can be. I truly admire those who choose teaching. Such a noble profession, even if it's not highly regarded these days." Olivia caught the subtle sting behind the sugar-coated words. "Thank you, ma'am. For me, what matters most is what we give, not what we receive." Margaret smiled, sipping her wine. "A lovely philosophy. I hope you can hold on to that spirit when you live in a different environment." Olivia stayed silent. The remark was like a soft tap on an invisible door between them, the door of status, bloodline, and power. The party continued, but Olivia began to feel every look, every side laugh. The women in silk whispered, the men clinked glasses in polite approval. Everything flowed like a perfectly rehearsed play, each person knowing their role, except for her, the misplaced actor. A middle-aged woman approached, smiling pleasantly. "Miss Bennett, I heard you teach at a public school in the Mission District. I used to have a housekeeper from there. Same kind of crowd, I suppose?" Olivia smiled faintly. "Maybe so. At my school, everyone helps each other. No one's defined by who they are." The woman hesitated, then changed the subject, though her condescending look lingered. While Ethan was pulled into a circle of men talking investments, Olivia stood alone by the bar. The champagne glass in her hand reflected her face blurred under soft golden light. She felt as though she were drifting not through the crowd, but across an ocean of unspoken things. Laughter broke out behind her. A familiar voice said, "She's adorable. She really thinks love can be bought with faith." Another replied, "Who knows? Maybe Ethan just wanted a taste of something real this time." Olivia didn't turn. She took a deep breath, let the wine touch her lips, sharp but sobering. They didn't know her. They didn't know what had shaped her. Suddenly, Uncle Robert, a large man with a flushed face from drink, stumbled toward her. "Hey there," he chuckled. "I hear you're a teacher." "Wonderful. But honestly, loving a Parker is tougher than teaching kids." "Huh." Olivia held her smile, answering lightly. "I like challenges that matter, sir." "Ha!" he laughed loudly, turning to the group beside him. "Hear that? She's a fighter. Let's hope her wallet can keep up." The laughter burst out loud, sharp, cold. Ethan, talking across the room, didn't hear. Olivia turned away, seeking space to breathe. She stepped into the corridor where the cool air drifted through an open window carrying the scent of grapes from the vineyard. She stood there leaning lightly on the balcony, looking out at the night stretching over the trees. This is his world, she thought. Vast, perfect, and not meant for me. Inside her pain mixed with fierce resolve. She wouldn't bow her head. She wouldn't let them define her worth. Inside, the music rose again. The party glowed on untouched by what had just happened. But within Olivia, a fracture had formed small but sharp. She didn't yet know that in just a few hours, this very place, the place where they mocked her, would fall silent in awe. And from that moment on, nothing would ever be the same again. The music played on soft and elegant, as if nothing ugly could possibly exist beneath the glow of those chandeliers. But to Olivia, every note sounded like metal against glass, shrill, cold, and hollow. Ethan was pulled into a conversation about stocks with his uncles, leaving her once again standing quietly by the bar. No one paid attention. No one asked how she was. Only glances thin slicing through the air like blades. A group of young women in shimmering silk gowns gathered nearby. Olivia heard them chatting about designer brands' holidays in the Maldives and charity galas in Beverly Hills. Their laughter rang like breaking glass. She was about to walk away when a familiar sweet voice cut through Chloe Parker's. "Actually, I think Olivia is really brave," Chloe said, sounding innocent. "Not everyone would have the confidence to walk into this house wearing such a simple dress. I mean, who needs designer labels to draw attention, right?" Another woman laughed. "True. Maybe that's her strategy. When you have nothing to show off, you just have to be different." The words were light, but each one pricked like a needle. Olivia heard them, but didn't react. She had long learned how people disguised cruelty behind smiles. "She's a teacher, isn't she?" "Yeah, at a public school in the Mission District." "Oh my God, Ethan's actually serious about her. Maybe it's just a phase. Who knows?" She stood still, watching her wine glass reflect their laughing faces. The wine was red deep and dark like blood. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. All the lessons she'd ever taught about kindness, respect, and human worth tonight, she was the living example of their opposite. Margaret Parker approached, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "My dear," she said softly, her voice like air. "I hope you're not uncomfortable." The girls were just joking. You know, everyone here speaks their mind. Olivia looked up and met her eyes. "It's all right, ma'am. I'm used to it. My students sometimes say hurtful things too, but at least they learn how to apologize." Margaret's smile froze for half a second before she recovered it cold porcelain perfect. "How interesting," she replied, and turned away. Then came a middle-aged man with silver hair, Robert Parker, Margaret's brother, holding a glass of wine. "Miss Olivia, isn't it? You know, when I was young, I once fancied a sweet, ordinary girl like you. Lovely girl. But then I realized love doesn't pay the bills." Laughter erupted around the table. Robert winked. "But hey, good luck to you. Maybe this time, ideals will win over reality." Olivia gripped her glass so tightly it nearly cracked. Across the room, Ethan was still smiling and chatting with a circle of men in black suits. He didn't see, didn't hear, and didn't know that inside his own home, the woman he loved was being stripped bare by words wrapped in silk. A drop of red wine slipped onto her hand, cool and sharp. She set the glass down and walked toward the back terrace. The night air carried the scent of ripe grapes, soft as a childhood memory. Olivia leaned against the railing, feeling hollow. She took out her phone. A message appeared from Nathan, her brother. "You okay, Liv? They treating you well?" She read it over and over, the short line, warming her heart to the point of pain. Nathan, the man who had worked his entire youth so she could study. The one who once told her, "You don't need anyone to validate your worth, Olivia. You just need to believe in it." But tonight, among people who believed they had the right to assign value to others, that belief felt like it was wearing thin. Inside, laughter continued. The golden light from the hall spilled across her face, bright yet cold, like water before it freezes. She typed back, "I'm fine, just a little tired." Then turned off the screen, though peace didn't follow. Something deep inside whispered that the night wasn't over, that the wind rising outside was not just the wind. A glimmer sparked in Olivia's eyes, fragile but fierce. She didn't know what awaited her, only that if this was a test of fate, she would not falter. Inside the Parker mansion, the clinking of glasses echoed like the overture of a silent war. And Olivia, the woman they thought was weak, was about to make the entire room fall silent. The piano shifted tempo, moving from gentle notes to a livelier rhythm. People laughed again, glasses clinked again, and conversations drifted back to things that didn't matter. But inside Olivia, something had cracked. She had endured enough, every whisper, every cold glance. She had stayed calm for Ethan, for love, for the belief that if she were patient enough, they would see who she truly was. But when kindness became the punchline of a joke in front of everyone, silence was no longer a virtue. From the main hall came Chloe's voice. This time she didn't bother to lower it. "She's adorable," Chloe said. "She says she wants to make a difference through teaching. As if teaching poor kids to spell could actually change the world." A few laughs followed. Another woman added, "At least she has dreams." A little naive, though. Chloe tilted her head, smiling faintly. "Yes, cute indeed, but this family doesn't need more dreamers. We need people who understand how to live in reality." Olivia stood a few steps away, hearing every word. Her face burned, but her heart turned cold. Everything inside her stopped for a single heartbeat, and then came the stillness before a storm. She stepped forward. Her heels struck the marble floor, each step echoing through the room. The chatter faded, heads turned. Chloe still hadn't noticed. "Actually," Olivia said, her voice calm, eerily calm. "I teach 3rd grade, not preschool. And yes, I do believe my work can change the world, at least the world of the children I teach." The room froze. Chloe turned eyes wide in brief surprise before settling back into mockery. "Oh, Olivia, I didn't mean to offend you. We were only joking." "No," Olivia replied evenly, her eyes bright. "You did mean it. All of you did. And I've heard enough." Margaret stepped forward, her tone soft, but strained. "My dear, don't let emotions get the best of you. This is supposed to be a celebration." "A celebration?" Olivia's smile trembled, but stayed true. "Is it a celebration when people mock someone's work, or when love becomes a test of class?" No one spoke. The music faltered, then stopped altogether, as if someone had signaled the band. Every eye fixed on her. Olivia continued, her voice steady, each word deliberate. "I didn't come here to impress anyone. I don't have a vast inheritance or a powerful name. But I have a job. I love students I believe in, and a dignity no one in this room has the right to take away." A man whispered, "She's bold." A woman looked down, uneasy. Ethan, finally realizing what was happening, rushed over. "Olivia, are you okay? What's going on?" She looked at him, her eyes a mix of love and sorrow. "You really didn't hear any of it, Ethan." "Not a single word all night." He froze. The room remained silent, suspended in that moment. Only Olivia's breathing filled the space. "I love you," she said softly. "But if being with you means I have to shrink myself to fit into your world, then I'd rather stand alone." Margaret gently touched her son's arm, whispering, "Enough. Take her outside." Olivia shook her head, her voice cool and clear. "No need. I can walk myself out." She set her champagne glass down, the sound sharp and final, like a full stop, then turned toward the door. But before she reached it, Chloe's voice rang out behind her, sweet and cruel. "At least she's honest. You know, I suppose the only thing she'll bring to my brother is savings." Laughter followed, but it died the instant Olivia turned back. Her eyes blazed fierce and unwavering. "You can laugh," she said, her tone cutting through the air, "but one day you'll have to relearn the very first lesson of character respect. I teach it every day. It's just a shame no one here seems willing to learn." No one spoke again. Olivia left the room, leaving behind faces frozen in shock. Outside, the Napa night was still. The wind swept through the vineyards, tangling softly in her hair, like a whisper of comfort. She stopped by the gate, her heart lighter, as if she'd just set down a weight no one else could see. Her phone buzzed a message from Nathan. "You need me there." Olivia looked at the screen, her lips tightening. "Yes. Can you come now?" She hit send, then lifted her gaze to the sky. A new wind was rising from the distance, cold but strong, and Olivia knew the storm was only just beginning. 20 minutes after Olivia left the Parker mansion, the air inside the party was still as tense as a tightened string. A few guests tried to resume conversation, but their voices trembled slightly. The violin faltered, then stopped altogether. Everyone sensed something was wrong, as if the storm hadn't passed, but had merely stepped back to gather strength. Outside, along the stone-paved road leading to the estate, the Napa night wind grew stronger. The vineyard leaves rustled like whispers in the dark. Olivia stood alone at the foot of the steps, her face still, her eyes reflecting the golden light behind her. She could hear her own heartbeat, not from fear, but from a strange calm before the storm. Then she saw headlights appear in the distance. 1, 2, 3, then more. A line of white lights glided through the trees like a trail of falling stars. The deep hum of SUVs broke the stillness of the valley. The Parker gatekeepers froze as the vehicle stopped at the base of the grand steps. From the leading SUV, 4 men in black suits stepped out. No one needed to be told they were professionals. They opened the door of the second car. A man emerged, tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes calm, yet razor-sharp. His charcoal gray suit fit him perfectly, his presence commanding without arrogance, the kind of man who could control a room with a single glance. Nathan Bennett. Olivia exhaled, her lips trembling slightly, a mix of relief and apprehension. Her brother had arrived. He smiled faintly, walking toward her, and pulled her into a hug. "I'm here, Liv," Nathan said softly, his voice deep and steady. "You okay?" Olivia shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "Not really, but I'm all right now." Nathan looked past her toward the brightly lit mansion. "Good," he said calmly, "because there's something I need to say to them." Inside, guests were gathering near the windows. Someone whispered, "What's happening?" "Who's that?" One man recognized the silver emblem on the car door, the logo of Bennett Technologies, the largest tech corporation on the West Coast. A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. The main doors opened. Nathan walked in with steady steps. Olivia followed close behind, no longer bowing her head. The room went silent, except for the rhythmic sound of his shoes on the marble floor. Margaret Parker was the first to speak, her voice trembling but struggling to maintain grace. "Sir, you are—" Nathan stopped before her and extended his hand. Nathan Bennett, Olivia's brother. The silence shattered like glass. Margaret's eyes widened. Chloe froze. Ethan's face turned pale. Nathan continued, his voice calm, but his words like steel. "I heard that tonight someone made my sister feel small. I came to see how small they'd feel standing before the truth." No one spoke. Eyes darted. The air thickened, heavy and choking. Margaret forced a smile. "Mr. Bennett, please forgive us." "We didn't know, I know." Nathan interrupted, his tone low and cold. "If you had known, I'm sure you would have behaved differently. But that's the problem, isn't it? A person's worth only matters here when you know how much money they have. A man in the crowd cleared his throat, trying to laugh politely, but Nathan turned toward him, his gaze sharp as a blade. I've heard enough laughter tonight to know one thing: some people survive on fake smiles because their hearts have no room left for decency. The room grew heavier. Chloe lowered her head, her lips trembling. Ethan stepped forward, his voice breaking. Olivia, I didn't know they treated you that way. I'm so sorry. Olivia looked at him, her eyes strangely calm. No, Ethan. You didn't know, but you should have felt it. Nathan placed a hand on her shoulder, smiling gently. You don't owe anyone an explanation, Liv. They're the ones who need to listen. Then he turned to face Margaret Parker directly. I built a company from nothing, and I learned one thing: character can't be bought, and it can't be faked. My sister doesn't need anyone's wealth. She has value because she is herself. No one replied. Only the sound of uneasy breathing filled the room. Margaret tried to speak, but Nathan finished first. I didn't come here to threaten anyone. I came to say thank you, because tonight you taught my sister the most important lesson of all, that she doesn't need to be accepted to know she's worthy. He turned to Olivia. Let's go, Liv. She nodded. As they walked toward the door, the crowd parted. Olivia didn't look back, but she could feel the eyes behind her. Those same eyes that once looked down on her, now filled with shame and fear. Outside, the wind rose again, carrying the scent of grapes and the sound of SUV tires rolling over gravel. Olivia leaned her head against the car window and closed her eyes. She didn't cry. Inside her, there was only one feeling left: the peace of someone who had finally reclaimed herself. The SUV rolled away from the Parker estate. Outside the Napa Valley, night stretched endlessly dark and still, like a blank page, one on which Olivia could begin to rewrite herself. The taillights of the convoy glowed against the gravel road, weaving red trails that pulsed like a heartbeat still echoing in her chest. Olivia leaned her head against the window, watching her reflection blur in the glass. Her hair was tousled, her makeup faintly smeared by tears that had never quite fallen. But her eyes still shone. For the first time that night, the light in them was not born of endurance, but of belief. Nathan sat beside her, one hand steady on the wheel, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. His voice was deep and calm, carrying the weight of anger tightly restrained. I'm sorry I got here late, he said. I should have been there sooner, before they even thought of touching your dignity. Olivia shook her head gently. No. You came at the perfect time. If you'd come earlier, I might have stayed silent. Nathan turned to her, his eyes softening. I've been looked down on too, Olivia. When I was young, I walked into rooms like that full of people who judged by the fabric of a suit. They taught me something: money can open doors, but character is what keeps them open. Olivia pressed her lips together, her voice tight with emotion. I thought love could bridge two worlds. I believed that if I was good enough, they'd see it. But to them, good isn't enough. You have to be rich, powerful, your name printed in magazines. And tonight Nathan said they lost the one thing money can't buy, the chance to be truly respected. Silence filled the car, broken only by the hum of the engine and the whisper of wind slicing past the window. Olivia closed her eyes, memories flooding back the stare in Chloe's eyes. Margaret's smirk, Ethan's stunned face as she walked away. Now all of it drifted farther and farther behind her, like the shrinking lights outside. Through the rearview mirror, she saw the mansion growing smaller in the distance. Inside, shadows of people gathered around Margaret, murmuring in panic. Chloe had her face buried in her hands. Ethan stood motionless. No one said it out loud, but they all knew in a single night the Parker family's reputation had cracked, not because of lost wealth, but because they had been seen for who they truly were. Margaret sat down. her hand trembling as she held her glass, but the liquid inside no longer tasted of luxury, only the bitterness of shame. She thought of Olivia, of the calm, unwavering eyes of the woman she had once dismissed. For the first time in years, Margaret Parker felt small. In the car, Nathan rolled down the window, letting the night air rush in, the scent of grapes mingled with asphalt and freedom. "You know," he said, "they'll never forget tonight. Not because I'm a CEO, but because a schoolteacher made them bow their heads." Olivia let out a soft laugh, light as the wind. "I never wanted them to bow. I just wanted them to see me for who I really am." "And they did," Nathan replied. "They just couldn't handle the truth." Olivia gazed out the window, her voice quiet. "When I walked into that room, I felt small. But when I walked out, I realized I never needed to be accepted. I just needed to hold on to my dignity." Nathan smiled, a rare smile filled with pride. "You've always been stronger than you think, Liv." As the convoy turned onto the highway, the moonlight spilled across endless rows of vineyards. Olivia rested her head back, her eyes closing softly. She saw her classroom in her mind, children raising their hands, smiling brightly. They knew nothing of wealth or social rank, yet they knew love, compassion, and respect. And she understood then the world she was nurturing each day, however small, was far more beautiful than any glittering ballroom. The next morning, as dawn swept across the valley, Olivia checked her phone. There was a message from Ethan. "I'm sorry. I couldn't protect you." She read it, then deleted it. On the table, the engagement ring glimmered in the morning light. Olivia placed it inside a small box, sending it back with a short note. "I hope you find someone your family deems worthy. As for me, I've finally realized I already am." When Nathan dropped her back at her small San Francisco apartment, he said, before leaving, "There are nights that break us, but those same nights can make us grow. Tonight, you stood up for everyone who's ever been looked down on." Olivia stood on the balcony watching the sunrise over the horizon. The light touched her face, not the face of a woman who had been hurt, but of one who had reclaimed her worth. Sometimes dignity doesn't need to be proven with wealth. It only needs the courage to stand tall when the world tries to make you bow. 3 months had passed since that night. Napa Valley had changed its colors, the scent of sweet grapes once again blanketing the valley, and Olivia Bennett's life had quietly begun to bloom in its own way. She had returned to her small classroom where the laughter of children filled the mornings. No more chandeliers, no more wine or judging eyes, just a blackboard white chalk and the innocent gaze of children who looked at her like she was light. Here she could simply be herself, no need to prove, no need to bow. One afternoon, a curly-haired little girl ran up to her and handed her a piece of paper filled with scribbles. "Miss Olivia, you taught me to believe I can do anything." Olivia held the paper, her heart trembling slightly. That alone was enough to erase every cruel word that had once hurt her. She smiled, gentle, calm, and free. That evening after class, she stopped by the old cafe where everything had begun. The glass still reflected the golden sunset. The familiar scent of coffee still lingered in the air. Only now, the seat across from her was no longer Ethan's. A voice spoke up. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Olivia looked up. A brown-haired man, about 30. Simple shirt, a kind smile. "No," she said. "Please sit. I'm Mark Evans. I teach history at Riverside. You're a teacher, too." "Yes," she replied with a soft smile. "Then we share the same profession, the one that doesn't pay much but somehow makes the world better." His words made her laugh, a quiet, genuine, warm laugh. They talked about their students, about belief, about long days of teaching that still ended in happiness. The conversation flowed so naturally that time seemed to melt away in the afternoon light. When they parted, Mark said gently, You know, people often think teaching is ordinary, but I believe it takes extraordinary people to do something ordinary every single day. Olivia stood still watching as he disappeared into the crowd. Her heart felt peaceful, no longer wounded, only grateful. That night she returned home, opened her laptop, and read through the essays her students had written. Among the lines of childish handwriting, one sentence caught her eye. "You told us we don't need others to believe in us, only ourselves." She smiled and closed her eyes. Outside, the breeze drifted through the window, carrying the faint scent of grape blossoms. On the table, the velvet box that once held her engagement ring still rested. Olivia opened it, looked at the glimmering stone, then closed it again. Not with regret, not with anger, but as a gentle full stop to a chapter that had ended. In the notebook beside her, she wrote, "Dignity needs no permission. It blooms from within like a flower growing through stone." Outside, the dawn of a new season was rising, and Olivia Bennet stepped into the day, not carrying her past, but carrying the light of her own becoming. One late autumn afternoon, Olivia left the school after class, carrying a stack of assignments in her arms. She stopped by a small supermarket near her home, standing in line at the checkout amid the crowd. When she looked up, her eyes met a familiar face, Margaret Parker. The woman who had once worn her pride like armor now stood quietly, her hair grayer, her eyes weary. She fumbled for her wallet as the receipt slipped from her hand. Olivia bent down, picked it up, and handed it back to her. "Thank you," Margaret murmured, then froze as she realized who was standing before her. Olivia. There was no trace of grandeur now, only unease and a faint embarrassment in her voice. For a few seconds they stood in silence, surrounded by the sounds of beeping scanners and distant supermarket music. "I owe you an apology," Margaret said, her gaze lowered. "I was wrong about you, about what deserves respect." Olivia smiled softly, light as a breeze. "No one owes anyone, ma'am. I've learned that forgiveness is sometimes the only way to move forward." Margaret looked up, her eyes glistening. "You taught me that lesson even outside the classroom." Olivia nodded gently. "We're all still learning every day." As Margaret walked away, Olivia watched her go without resentment, without pride, only peace. She realized that power might make people hold their heads high, but humility is what allows them to be forgiven. Outside, the last light of day fell across her shoulders, soft and golden, like the closing line of a long journey, one where dignity had won in the gentlest way possible. From a professional's perspective, Olivia Bennet's story is more than a journey of overcoming prejudice. It is proof of a deeper truth. True worth does not come from background or wealth, but from how we hold our dignity amid the eyes that look down on us. When she chose silence over hatred, strength over pleading, she won with the one power no one can buy: self-respect. If you believe that respect begins with how we treat others, make sure to like and subscribe to help spread more stories of dignity and humanity. And before you go, leave a comment with 3 simple words. I am enough.